let's hear it for the John Ellis Trio. Great job, wonderful music, making the event for us. Thank you. So we're going to start our program now. In a few minutes, they'll move the food that's there into the yak, so it's in a climate-controlled area, and they're going to set up dessert, which we'll have after our program.
All right, I'm going to give everyone about a minute or two to just sit and settle down. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Audrey Leviton, and welcome to a celebration of love and leadership. Welcome to our guest of honor, Rabbi Greenstein. Welcome to Zelda and Yona and Husso. Yay! To their friends from out of town, to visiting clergy, and to everyone who's here from the Shomrei community. Today we honor Rabbi Greenstein's 13 years as our spiritual leader, teacher, and friend. The program will be about 45 minutes long, and you will hear from a cross-section of people from our community who will speak to the many ways the Rabbi worked with us in loving partnership to make Shomrei our home away from home. At the heart of this day is our gratitude.
I'm John Lasseter, co-chair with Audrey for this event. I'm just gonna take the moment in for a second, just because it's an amazing moment. We're all finally eating together. It's outside, so we can eat together. But it's wonderful to see everybody here. It's great. A wise man once told me, and see if you can figure out who I might be talking about. A wise man once told me that synagogues are like a superpower. That alone you can't do very much, or you can do what you can do, but you can only do what you can do alone. But when you're in a dedicated group of people, like a synagogue, you can do great things, not just things. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to exercise our superpower. At this moment, for our community, we're not going to take anything for granted. Like the Shechianu tries to teach us, we're going to try to be in this moment, but also thinking of many other moments along the way that got us to this moment. We're going to recollect and honor someone who helped us recognize our superpowers by leading us, by prodding us, by encouraging us, congratulating us, crying with us, and dancing with us. Rabbi David Greenstein. And with that, I want to bring our host with the most, bring on Nick Leviton, our host with the most, who is our MC for the program.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is a celebration of love and leadership. We celebrate our rabbi and the 13 years in which this congregation has come together and flourished. Now, normally, I would start quoting Heschel about now, but today I'm not going to. Because words, in and of themselves, even Heschel's words, can't fully express the gratitude we feel for all the ways in which you have touched our lives. Nevertheless, our speakers are going to try to find the words. And before I introduce them, I want to share some words from a beloved member of Shomrei who passed away not too long ago. A while back, Carol Cathay, of blessed memory, wrote a review of Shomrei on Google. This is what she said. Shomrei is like a second home. People are welcoming and diverse. Rabbi is a scholar yet down to earth, never too busy to listen, wry sense of humor. Few words that say a lot. I joined Shomrei shortly after the rabbi arrived. I came here in search of a sacred community, a meaningful Judaism, and a rabbi, a spiritual leader of substance. I found all three. And most importantly, I found a rabbi who understood what a sacred community could be. The rabbi demonstrated that in short order. Not too long after his arrival, he encouraged us to re-examine some essential questions. Who are we as a community? Where are we going? What is our vision? Ultimately, the answers we arrived at as a result of the 2020 committee led to who and what we are today. And our first speakers are two people I have had the pleasure of working with on a number of occasions here at Shomrei. Both were co-chairs of the 2020 committee, our immediate past president, Fern Heinig, and Andy Silver.
Thanks, Nick. Though not quite immediate past president anymore. Time's flying, guys. Two past presidents. So, some of you have heard about the 2020 committee. Some of you have actually been on the 2020 committee, and some of you just keep hearing this expression and have no clue what the heck it is. 2020 really started out with the rabbi's passion of the fact that, you know what, synagogues are dying, our own members are getting older, retiring, moving away, and we're not attracting younger people to come join Jewish communities. This wasn't just a Shomrei problem, this was a national problem. So Rabbi Greenstein learned about this model called the co-op model, and it became a for real passion for him. It was a way he thought that we could revitalize not only our community, but Judaism. So the first very, very smart thing he did was solicit Andy Silver to lead the way and lead the charge in this. Andy's an economist, and the first thing we had to figure out, even if we did this, is this a viable option, financially viable, right? Because it sounds great on paper, but it's also got to work financially as we can't open up the building. So Andy did his research and figured it out and said, okay, good possibility. The rabbi made his first terrible mistake, and he asked me to join Andy. Not a good idea. Yeah, it's never a good idea, because we know that the rabbi has strong opinions, I have strong opinions, and sometimes, and he has no opinion, sometimes Andy just played referee. But the very, very first thing we did was, as a leadership committee, the rabbi, Andy, and I, as we sat around and said, whom from this congregation do we need to join us? And we really spent a lot of time literally going through the directory. We had our own criteria. Some have been agreed to, some people have gotten mad at us about, but we really wanted fresh faces, we wanted a new look, and we wanted all demographics to be represented. So we called our committee together, first meeting, and the very first meeting just got totally out of control because we thought we were going for a co-op committee, and really what it was all about was that our wonderful committee really looked at the future and said, this is more than just a financial model. There's lots of things that we need to do, and we need to incorporate into our community to be a sustaining community. So that's how we got renamed Shomrei 2020. The rabbi, Andy, and I think it was 2 years. I mean, this 1 month committee stretched into 2 years, and God bless our committee members because they showed up at meetings once a month and did their own work in between meetings. And so it really took on a life of its own, but it took on a life of its own because of all of us working together.
Thank you, Fern. The 2020 committee was composed of 10 to 12 members and met regularly, as Fern said, for about 2 years, starting in 2013. Rabbi Greenstein was an active participant and provided calm, sage advice throughout the sometimes arduous process. Out of that effort came a number of major accomplishments, including the formulation of a foundational set of core values for Shomrei, the conversion of our religious school to one centered around Shabbat, the development of our highly successful lecture series at Nourish, and a variety of other changes to make Shomrei a more welcoming place for our members. But ultimately, perhaps the crowning achievement was a transformation of our membership model from a traditional one-size-fits-all dues-paying system to the voluntary sustaining share model that we have today. That membership model takes the core of Rabbi Greenstein's original vision of a cooperative model and incorporates the many ideas of the 2020 Committee and other synagogue members. The result is a system that has been truly transformational for Shomrei. The model has helped to foster the open-door Judaism that we espouse. It has freed the synagogue community from endless fundraising throughout the year. And perhaps most importantly, it imparts to our members the sense of intentionality and responsibility necessary to sustain the synagogue, and at the same time allows members to choose the level of financial support at which they feel comfortable. For Rabbi Greenstein's original vision, flexibility, advice, and patience throughout the entire process, we are eternally grateful.
Our next speakers are two people who have spent countless hours devoted to education of our children. Heather Brown, our departing Director of Education, and Adrian Schulman, Vice President of Education.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. So, when Sam was studying for his bar mitzvah with Rabbi Greenstein about 10 years ago, holy moly, he turned to me one day and said, Rabbi Greenstein reminds me of Rabbi Harvey. I don't think many of you have heard of Rabbi Harvey. The Rabbi Harvey graphic novels are a collection of short stories which take place in a fictitious town in the old Wild West. In each story, Rabbi Harvey teaches through Jewish wisdom, values, and fair play with humor, logic, and understanding. So Sam definitely had a point. This is what Rabbi Greenstein has shared over the years with our JLC and preschool kids. He brought his wisdom and Jewish values to the older kids through his B'nai Mitzvah teachings. His logic and understanding shined through in the early Hinei Matov family services when he turned Ma Gadlu into an elephant, walking slowly to the tune. I still see elephants every time I hear that song. And his humor was ever present in fun places like the preschool Purim puppet show. Rabbi Greenstein loved playing Queen Vashti because she always got to say no. He must have liked this part because he never said no to us in the school. He was always game for anything when asked. It's been such a pleasure and an honor collaborating with you, Rabbi. I want to present to you this sheriff's badge so you can continue in the Rabbi Harvey tradition, bringing Jewish wisdom, values, and humor to your next adventure. We're proud to let everyone know there's a new sheriff in town. I mean, Rabbi.
It's almost high noon. Ain't room in this tent.
Hinei Matov, these are words that we say often in the school. We say them in JLC, we sing them in JLC, and we sing them in the preschool every Friday morning too, often with our arms around each other if you've ever been to any of our school Shabbats or celebrations. And when I think of the words Hinei Matov, how good it is to be together, I often think of you, Rabbi, as being together here with us in the school, because your presence has been a huge part in the growth of our schools. From the preschoolers who love to ask the rabbi, my favorite thing, we have an Ask the Rabbi section sometimes Friday mornings, and they've asked everything from, tell me about God in 5 seconds, or what's your favorite food to eat on Shabbat? And of course, everyone always expected the rabbi to say challah, but he did not. Rabbi, do you want to yell out, what is your favorite food to eat on Shabbat?
Chocolate-covered donut.
That's right. chocolate covered donuts, and they would just watch him in awe, truly. And what I love, not because, well, they probably wanted chocolate covered donuts at the time too, but what I loved is that the rabbi was always such a human being to us, first and foremost. For the children, he would often read secular stories to them during story time in the preschool, and I always sort of stood back in that moment and looked at you, just seeing that, yes, you're our rabbi, but you were also very much a human being, an open and honest person to our children. And for me, that's an incredible mark of a role model. So we want to say thank you for being a role model to children from their youngest moments here at Shomrei all the way up through their oldest moments. I hope you'll continue to share that spirit of honesty and openness wherever you go, and bringing a spirit of togetherness. And we can all truly say, Hinei Matov, how good it is to all be together thanks to you. So thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Sarbanaz Singh, a member of our congregation and a devoted parent of a student who attended Shomrei's preschool and is now in the JLC, will speak next.
Thank you. Dear Rabbi, when we say goodbye to someone, we are not wholly leaving them, and they are not wholly leaving us. The experiences shared and lessons learned together will remain with both people throughout the days of their lives. Before COVID, my son and I used to attend Friday night Shabbat services. I'd be coming straight from work, and Brian Jr. would be freshly showered, dressed, and dropped off at synagogue with his sitter. He was often one of the few, if not the only child, attending services. Right before we recited the Shema, you'd invite him to join you. You'd take off your talit and wrap it around him. Then you'd welcome his little voice to lead the congregation in saying the Shema. His reward was having some grape juice with you after saying the blessings. This is Rabbi love that will live in my son's heart for all the days of his life. From your involvement with our preschool and JLC, you have shown yourself as a rabbi who is purely himself. Your gatherings with all the kids always felt comfortable for them. They felt like they can just speak to you with ease. Throughout the years, I often saw you help kids better understand Shabbat. You often had to explain to them that even though TV watching, looking at the iPad, playing video games brought them joy, Judaism advised a break so that they can have time with their families and appreciate nature. As a leader and teacher, you have little expectations of how others should act, react, or behave. You just keep doing your best and hope the message of Torah lands in the right places at the right times for whomever is listening. There's a selflessness and a humbleness in this way of teaching that I have admired about you. Thank you for helping me create a Jewish home, for leading my son's upshirin, for calling me during my times of distress, for sitting through many hours of preschool and JLC education meetings, and in general, for making children and parents of the preschool and JLC feel welcomed in your presence each and every single time. I hope life treats you well. I wish you joy and good health. May we meet again sooner than later. Goodbye, Rabbi.
Whenever I walk into Shomrei and see Craig Eichner and Bill Batgay, I always feel right at home. They are ever present in all our services and in many of the rabbis' classes. And here they come.
Thank you. So I'm Craig Eichner. The story is told that the rabbi was retiring, and on his final Shabbat, the congregation came out to wish him well. And after the service, elderly Mrs. Weinberg comes up to him and says, "Rabbi, whoever comes after you will never be as good as you." The rabbi says, "Well, that's very sweet of you, Mrs. Weinberg, but I don't think that's true." She goes, "Oh, believe me, it is. I've been here a long time. I've seen a whole slew of rabbis come and go, and each one was worse than the one before." No idea how long it was. Anyway, that certainly was not the case when Rabbi Greenstein came to us. And yes, as Nick said, I'm one of the people, I frequently attend services, and I have had the very distinct honor and privilege of sharing the bima with Rabbi Greenstein. And I can tell you, it was always a delight to hear Rabbi Greenstein daven. Anyone can learn to lead a service, case in point. But Rabbi Greenstein expresses such kavanah, you can feel him pour his heart into every word. Of course, having a magnificent voice doesn't hurt. From the sing-song tune of Ein Keloheinu to the soaring grandeur of Kol Nidrei, his davening moves the soul. As does the silence. If I had to choose one innovation that made a huge difference in our congregation, it was making the silent Amidah truly silent, giving everyone a chance to have their moment with the Kadosh Baruch Hu without feeling rushed. When I'm in another synagogue that does not have that custom, the lack of silence feels deficient. But just as there is a time for silence, so is there a time for singing. Rabbi Greenstein introduced new, for us anyway, melodies into our service. Prayer, he taught us, need not be mumbled, as if it were something to get through and be done with. Prayer can be uplifting, and what better way than through that most unique of human invention, music. From the everyday Ashrei to his wonderful music slichot services, of which I had the privilege to participate as an accompanist, silence and singing. What great bookends. And the music didn't stop with the end of the service. After Shabbat services, after we had partaken of a sumptuous meal, thank you, Eileen, he led us in Zmirot. For some, it was a return to tradition. For others like me, it was the beginning of a new tradition. I could not help but marvel at how many songs Rabbi Greenstein knew or knows. Turn to any page in the Bencher, pick a song, and he would not only know the song, but would know multiple melodies for the song. Though why should any of us have been surprised? Rabbi Greenstein leaves us with a rich musical heritage. The voice may be moving on, but the melody will abide.
Perhaps because I spent my professional life as an academic, I was drawn to Rabbi Greenstein as a teacher. And over the years, I've taken many different courses that he had taught, but I want to speak to just two of them today, the Talmud and the Zohar. I had started studying Talmud in the 1980s, fairly seriously at the Jewish Theological Seminary, and then I continued that more or less sporadically over the next 20 or so years. When the rabbi came and introduced the course in Talmud, I jumped at the chance. It was only after 2 or 3 months of studying with this man that I could finally say, you know, Rabbi, after 30 years, I'm finally thinking that I'm beginning to understand what it's all about. He did that in 3 months. The Zohar class was something else entirely. The Zohar is a book of Jewish mysticism, Jewish Kabbalah, and the rabbi introduced it some years after he came here. It was on a Thursday night, 8 to 9:30, relatively demanding time. When one thinks of the Zohar, as an ordinary person thinks of Zohar, several words come to mind. Recondite, abstruse, obscure, difficult to understand. Again, after 2 or 3 months, the rabbi had it starting to make sense. And I concluded at that time, and I've repeated several times since then, that the rabbi could have read at random from the Manhattan telephone directory and made it absolutely riveting. When somebody told me later that there was no more Manhattan telephone directory, I was sad for the Manhattan telephone directory, but the point remains. The rabbi is a teacher of absolutely par excellence. Rabbi, I am forever in your debt. Thank you.
Our next speaker is a longtime and devoted member of Shomrei, a pillar of our community, someone with a heart of gold. It's my pleasure to introduce Carol Katzman.
I don't know how I'm going to follow those. Pastoral care. What does it mean? It is something important to all of us, but not openly talked about. Our private lives are our own business, but the rabbi knows. I would say it comes under the heading of, and maybe this is a new phrase, rabbinic kippah. Rabbi Greenstein has been there for us. I can only speak from my own perspective because each person's interaction is personal. And even though I have heard some people talk about their conversations, it is not my place to remark on others' interaction. Speaking personally, I can mention how we walked to Mountainside Hospital after Kiddush on Shabbos to see Joe, or how he came to be with me when Joe was having some tests and literally letting me cry on his shoulder, or the healing service when I felt he dovetailed it to me. Whether he did or not, I don't know, but I just felt better. I am only one congregant, but we can multiply it many times over by just considering the size of Shomrei Emunah. Running 2 cemetery associations, I have seen his compassion. The first time Rabbi Greenstein and I met about the Shomrei Cemetery about 5 years ago, he showed his concern for all members of Shomrei Emunah. He asked me about interfaith graves. Several years of research culminated in the answers when they were needed. We were able to point the congregant in the right direction quickly and easily. As I said, pastoral care is something we are all concerned about, don't talk too much about, but we have had a caring, compassionate rabbi for the past 13 years. Thank you.
As I remember it, Lynn Kurzweil was a bit hesitant to become co-chair of it's now called the Carol Starr Mesh Cafe. But once she was in, there was no stopping her. Lynn has devoted herself, with her co-chair Eileen Grossberg, to ensuring that the Mesh Cafe feeds our food-insecure neighbors food that is comforting, nutritious, and delicious.
Well, I was asked to talk not just about MESH, but about social action. And we have a long history of being very involved in social action here. And from my perspective, when Rabbi Greenstein came about, and it seems like I've been doing MESH for about 13 years, I don't think it's quite that long, but I felt a calling to participate on a more active level. And I think it was because of the way that he approached social action. No matter who the recipient might be it immigrants from refugees, actually, from Afghanistan or Syria, be it in terms of racial relations in Montclair, where he is a community leader in the Montclair community, and certainly in MESH, where I don't know if you know, but there was a meal. This is going back to a few years ago, before COVID, when we served up to 30 people in our pre-reception room, or our gallery, I guess we call it now. And Rabbi Greenstein said, "I want to cook," and he did. And he planned a meal, he shopped for it, he prepared it, and he wasn't actually there to serve it because he had other things to do. But I was just floored that with everything he
he had to do in his busy schedule that he wanted to participate in that way. I think you all, or maybe you're not aware that when we do Family Promise, which we used to call Interfaith Hospitality Network, Rabbi Greenstein and Zelda every year would do a sleepover, an overnight, which is a big commitment, and it was always so much appreciated. And when you do social action, you wonder who benefits more, who gets more out of it, the recipient or the one who is actually doing the work. I just think it's quite notable that he not only talks the talk, but he walks the walk. He doesn't just encourage us, but he leads by his example. And I thank him very much for that.
Silver has taught a generation of Meryl Silver has taught a generation of B'nai Mitzvot to chant Torah. In addition, she's the organizer and member of Shomrei's Purim and Simchat Torah bands. And this Friday night at Shomrei, she played the piano with the Park Street Band. Meryl Silver.
Craig, I think we should have coordinated a little bit more, but it's worth repeating. We've enjoyed this special day honoring the Rabbi's leadership, love, and accomplishments. We've read from Dale's eloquent testimony about the Rabbi's accomplishments. We've read and we've heard about great, big things he's done, like the sustaining share model and reinterpreting a verse in the Torah. But I want to briefly mention a small thing he's done to enhance the culture of Shomrei. He started a singing table at the Kiddush on Shabbat. Anyone who has sat and sung at the table knows what I mean. Rabbi Greenstein would lead us in songs of Shabbat and Nigunim. Sometimes he would close his eyes and be transported to another time and place, and we would join him there. Sometimes, in spite of his banging on the table and keeping it grounded on the floor, I expected him to levitate the table with his joy. So in the spirit of the singing table, I would like to dedicate this song to Rabbi Greenstein. Some people of a certain generation will recognize the melody, but listen carefully because the lyrics have Rabbi Greenstein in mind. So, Maestro Kenny. F sharp, please. If you ask me, I could write a prayer about the way you teach and daven and care. I could fill a tractate with love, not hate, with your Torah sparks oh so great. Take your art and hang it on the wall. Collage, acrylic, oil, large, even small. Zelda, Yonah, Shomrei, and Kasha too. David Greenstein, Rabbi, that's you. Zelda, Yonah, Shomrei, and Kasha too. David Greenstein, Rabbi, that's you.
That was beautiful. Now I'd like to introduce the last of our speakers before our guest of honor. She's someone who's brought her buoyant spirit and love for education to Shomrei, Lily Lucy. Lily has been intimately involved with the JLC as the assistant director and as intern rabbi, played a growing role in our community. She's now Shomrei's student rabbi, and here she is.
Thank you. So I moved here 6 years ago and had been working with the ed team and with Rabbi Greenstein for about a year before I started rabbinical school at AJR in Yonkers. And I'll be honest, obviously I was aware of his wealth of knowledge from working with him, but I didn't really realize that he was a superstar rabbi until I went to AJR in my first in-person classes. I didn't realize that a letter of recommendation from him probably was all I needed and not even an interview. I feel so emotional. I didn't realize that his teachings would often be quoted and paraphrased by my fellow students, by alumni, or that every single time I went into class in person, someone would say, "Oh, you work with Rabbi Greenstein? You work with David Greenstein? Please, please, please tell him I said hi. Give him my best. Give him my love." Former students, colleagues, former coworkers, and there was almost a desperation in their pleas. These weren't hollow, "oh, tell him I said hi" kind of askings. They were intense longings for me to tell him that they were thinking of him. For quite a while, I tried so diligently to report these messages back to him. So-and-so said they miss you, so-and-so said they're thinking of you, and so-and-so says hi. And he very graciously accepted all of these messages, of course, but I'm sure, as he probably knew that I would, eventually I realized that I couldn't possibly remember to report each one at some point. Now that I find myself on the other side of that message, someone who will now be saying, "I used to work with him, please tell him I said hi," I get it. We want people to know their legacy, the ways that they've impacted us, the fact that their presence is felt. A few months ago, Rabbi Greenstein shared the well-known Israeli song Uf Gozal with our incoming B'nai Mitzvah cohort. If you don't know it, it's a song told from the perspective of a parent bird as the little bird leaves the nest. But really, this always goes both ways, right? The one flying away and the one left behind are both impacted to an extent that we can never fully grasp. We're part of each other. Consciously and not, decisions that we make and the ways we live our lives have been informed by what we've learned from our parents, leaders, teachers. I listen raptly to the rabbi's teachings, and I find myself imagining in what ways he can relate to Moshe and the rewards and struggles of leadership and trust in the congregation. In the song, Uf Gozal, the parent bird, while understanding that this transition is part of nature, warns not to forget that there's a dangerous bird of prey in the sky. Well, I think the only dangerous bird of prey in the sky, as we proudly and tearfully send you off, is forgetting that you are a part of each of us. Because to this Kehillah, this congregation, as we've heard again and again today, your impact is clear. We've brought one another to this moment. Because through your acts of meeting people of all ages and stages where they are, your gender inclusivity and egalitarian teachings, both in theory and in practice, through sharing your Torah by being you, you've helped each of us to become more us. The type of future clergy that I will be, the Jewish lives we each lead, the kind of community we have. Uf Gozal chatochet hashamayim tus le'an sheba lecha. Just don't forget this one thing, Rak al tishkach, that you're always a part of us.
Now, I'd like to call my rabbi, my mentor, a dear friend, and our rabbi,
David speaks to you. I want to personally thank all of you for your friendship, for your kindness, and for your respect. I'm very grateful to have been part of the Shomrei community, and I'll always cherish the years that we were here and knowing all of you. So thank you. And now a word from my love of 50 years.
Baruch she'echianu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lamakom hazeh velazman hazeh. The Heshechianu blessing is often recited in moments of great joy. But this is a moment that combines within it a complex of emotions, including sadness, nostalgia, and gratitude, as well as joy. Thank you to everyone who has labored so lovingly, so thoughtfully, so hard, so creatively to make this weekend such a beautiful time for me, my family, and for all of us together, and to make this brunch and gathering come to fruition. Thank you to everyone who has come here today to hear me say thank you. And to those who told me that they wished they could be here. And thank you to everyone who has shared beautiful messages in our Shomrei journal and directory. And to those who labored so hard to bring it to publication. I thank our Holy Blessed One for bringing me Lamakom Hazeh to this place 13 years ago. And I am so thankful to my Creator who has given me life and sustained me and brought me to this moment. How fortunate I have been to be able to be part of this wonderful community. We have made music together and been there for each other in so many ways. I have met and worked with and learned with and from and come to love so many special people. I cannot try to name the many names of everyone who deserves to be recognized, but I must mention all the presidents with whom I have served. Jay Sabin, Howie Erickson, Rich Epstein, Nick Leviton, Fern Hainig, Sarah Ann Erickson, and Miriam Haynes. And a little nod to Michael Sag. My tenure began at a time of economic challenges to our country and our community. And we have known challenging moments all along the way. The strength of commitment and devotion of Shomrei's leadership has been fantastic. The many iterations of our Board of Trustees have shown its dedication and wisdom always. We are blessed with devoted leaders in the realms of ritual, education, social action, programming, communications, and just plain caring for each other in times that call for support and assistance, that call for being a mensch. Our professional staff has worked tirelessly and creatively to lead and deal with every need and fulfill our worthy goals. I salute Ehud and Marida and Carlos and Javier. And our educators, Heather, Ela, and Lily. Along with all the teachers and staff of our schools and camp, it has been an incredible privilege to work with you in such positive partnership. When I speak of partnership, I must also express, however inadequately, my amazed gratitude for the love and support of my Eshet Chayil, my woman of valor, Zelda, and our son Yona. Yona is our love and joy, and now he has brought us the gift of his loving partner, Huso. Also, thankfully, as he has grown, he has been my trusted advisor throughout all my years here. And Zelda, well, she mentioned it. This weekend is the anniversary, the 50th anniversary of our marriage. Zelda has, well, she has simply been, despite her and sometimes my protestations to the contrary, she has been God's agent, God's presence for me, giving me life and sustaining me and enabling me to reach every moment before this one and now this very moment. As Rabbi Akiva once told his disciples, Sheli v'shelachem shelahi, anything of mine and yours is all from her. Zelda, you are my gravity and you are my oxygen. When I applied for this position, I wrote that I believed that the role of a rabbi is to be a custodian of Torah, to care for her well-being as a heritage and as a tree of life for the community. This means guarding her integrity and also fostering her potential to become a part of our lives. This includes as well doing the menial work of setting up on her behalf and cleaning up after an engagement with her. I have tried to serve the community and to serve the Torah of our Holy Blessed One in that spirit. I have tried to be the best custodian I could be. To conclude, I think it is fitting to mark this occasion with a siyum, a ritual of conclusion in which a person who has concluded studying some extensive text of Torah invites everyone to join for the last words of that Torah and to express gratitude for the past and hope for the future. One of my greatest joys has been to study Torah with you. One wonderful example has been our Chevre Shas, our Talmud study group. We have met weekly, and after finishing one whole tractate of Talmud, we've gotten through over half of tractate Megillah. So I took it upon myself for today to finish that project in our names and to complete that tractate. And so now I will share with you the very last sentences of Masechet Megillah, of tractate Megillah. The Mishnah tells us that because of a verse that says that Moses presented the laws of the festivals, each at its proper time, that we are commanded to read from the Torah every festival in accord with that appropriate section of Torah. And that's the basis of our custom of reading Torah on Passover with the Passover Torah reading, and on Sukkot with the Sukkot Torah reading, and on Shavuot with the Shavuot Torah reading, etc., etc. So that's a public ritual, custom, and practice that is very, very old. The Talmud, in its continuing discussion about the unfolding of our embrace of Torah, comes back to that verse. Tanu Rabbanan, Moshe tikein lahem liYisrael, sheyehu shoalim v'dorshim b'inyano shel yom, hilchot Pesach b'Pesach, hilchot Atzeret b'Atzeret, hilchot Chag b'Chag. So the Talmud says it's not only about ritual recitation. It's not only about taking the Torah out and being able to say, oh look, here's a couple of words that we can read out loud. It's about shoalim v'dorshim. It's about asking questions. It's about seeking meaning. It's about yearning to find what these words can mean for me, for us, now, at the appropriate moment. When Passover comes, how can I make this a Passover that I will love? When Sukkot comes, how can that happen? When Shabbat is here, when Sunday is here, Shoalim v'dorshim. Moses taught us that. Rashi adds to these last words of the Talmud, Shahaya medaber imahem hilchot kol moed u'moed bizmana. He would talk it over with them. Every festival as it came in its right time. Lahodia chukei ha'elokim v'torotav. To tell them what God is asking, what God is giving us, what God is instructing us. V'kiblu v'kimu schar hamitzvot aleihem. And again and again and again, the people accepted upon themselves to fulfill these challenges, to fulfill these calls. Aleihem v'al b'neihem bazeh uvaba. For themselves and for all generations to follow in this world and the world that is coming always and ever to bring life into the world that we live. These are the traditional words that we recite at the end of the study of a tractate. Hadran alach Masechet Megillah v'Hadran alach. Masechet Megillah, your beauty has passed over us and touched us, and we pray that our beauty touch you and penetrate you. Da'atan alach Masechet Megillah v'da'atach alan. We will always think about you, and we hope you, the Torah, will think about us. Lo titnashi minach Masechet Megillah v'lo titnashi minan. We will never abandon you, and we pray that you never abandon us. Lo ba'alma hadain v'lo ba'alma da'ati. Not in this world or in the coming world. Ha'arevna Adonai Eloheinu et divrei Toratcha b'finu v'fifiot amcha Beit Yisrael v'niyeh anachnu v'tze'etzaeinu v'tze'etzaei amcha Beit Yisrael kulanu yodei shemecha v'lomdei Toratecha lishma. Eternal One, our source of strength, make the words of Torah sweet in our mouths, so that we and our children and our children's children will always feel that they are connected to you and that you love them. Now I'm going to ask you to please rise. This is the special Kaddish that is recited at a siyum. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabba. Bi'alma dehu atid leitchadeta. ולחיה מתיה, ולעסקה לחיי עלמא, ולמבנה קרתא דירושלים, ולשכלה להיכלה בגאווה, ולמרקע פולחנה נוכרה מערה, ולהטבה פולחנה דשמיא לאתרי, וימליך קודשא בריחו במלכותי ויקרא, בחיי חון וביומי חון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עולמי. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. על ישראל ועל רבנן ועל תלמידי הון ועל כל תלמידי תלמידי הון ועל כל מן דיעסקין באורייתא די באתר הדין ודי בכל אתר ואתר יהי להון ולכון ולנה שלמה רבה אחינה וחיסטה ורחמין וחיינה ריחין ומזוני רוויחי ופרוקנה מקודמה והון דבשמיא והרה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיא וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. May God who makes peace in the heavens above bring more peace, bring a great peace down here below where we need it so badly, to us and to all who dwell in this globe of ours. Shalom, thank you.
Now I'd like to call our president, Miriam Haynes, who has some gifts to present as well as I do.
Rabbi and Zelda. I get to present gifts to you, and then I'll be back again to say a few words of thanks. As I said yesterday, can't say thanks enough, so I get to go twice. But even before I present these two gifts to you, I want to let you know that I feel as though I am the one receiving the gifts, as your partnership of these past 2 years and your guidance and spiritual leadership over the last 13 years feels like I am the one that has received a gift, and I will always treasure what I have experienced. But more of that in a few minutes. First, we want to present you with a basket of Philadelphia cultural items, including memberships to the Barnes Foundation Museum and to the Philadelphia Museum of Art, as well as a Go City Explorer Pass. Hopefully you already got these via email. And next is a very, very special gift. Again, I don't have a physical item for you to open. More stuff to move, right? It is the Rabbi David and Zelda Greenstein Fund for Social Justice. As I just mentioned, it is something very special, but not tangible. An anonymous family has contributed a significant amount to establish a fund to honor your legacy. While the specifics are still being worked out, the Rabbi David and Zelda Greenstein Legacy Fund for Social Justice is in recognition of the vision you have shared with Shomrei, the vision of the importance of social justice. You heard a lot of people speak about that. All part of living a Jewish life will remain with us. Funds will be made available by an application process to Shomrei members who are creating or attending studies, projects, or programs related to social justice. We thank you and the donor family for the generosity to enable us to honor you for giving us this beautiful vision over the last 13 years. We are all forever grateful.
So, I'm not sure what to get you. I've got a bunch of things here you can take a look at and see. Actually, this is something I created in collaboration with Dale Russakoff and, in a way, everyone in the congregation. This is a book, a photographic celebration of your years at Shomrei. Which is something that has an exquisitely written foreword by Dale Russakoff. And all of us at Shomrei present this to you not only as an expression of our gratitude, but hopefully in the years to come, a reminder of our affection and appreciation as well.
Thank you.
Just so, I'm sure many of you will probably want to see this. There's only one copy at the moment, but there'll only be another copy in the library, which we'll get to the library. And those of you who'd like to see what it looks like inside can do so by checking out the website, which is listed on I think the second page of the program. And when you get home, you can look at it and not have to look at it over someone's shoulder, okay?
I'll look at it now.
Anywhere. Oh, yes, there's one. Yes. John Lasseter, our Renaissance man, has one more thing before our president speaks. And Zelda.
It's like a bar mitzvah. You stand here. So if everyone would turn to the last page of your program on the back. You've both been a blessing and led us in so many blessings that we're going to lead you in a blessing right now. So I'll read the regular lines, and if everybody could join in and read the italicized and bold-faced lines. Everybody ready? As God blessed our ancestors on their journeys,
so may you yourselves be blessed as you embark on this new journey of your retirement.
may you find rest and challenges, quiet and adventure.
May you be sustained by all you have accomplished here at Shomrei, and inspired by the possibilities of what lies ahead.
May you allow yourself to experience silence and rest.
And may you open yourself to the new music that may emerge from that silence.
And let us say,
Amen.
Amen.
And now, our president, Miriam Haynes.
So I'm back again. As president for a few more days, I get the last word. Probably the only time I get the last word. And as usual, I get to thank everyone, especially you. So here goes. David, the past 2 years working closely together has certainly been a challenge and a pleasure, but I will come back to that shortly. I want to talk about a time when we first met, or at least when I first felt we connected. It was soon after you joined our Shomrei community as rabbi. A group of us were meeting in the gallery. I think we called it something else back then. The group had recently been downsized as a result of the 2008 financial crisis, and we were networking and helping one another to cope with loss. There are many types of loss, and those of us who were meeting were concerned about the livelihood of our families. We were experiencing a type of identity crisis as we had defined ourselves by the careers we chose. This was a very difficult time. You were insightful, compassionate, and thoughtful. I think you mentioned the economic crisis in your words, so you may remember that day. Your mannerism was really comforting and reassuring, and that interaction has stayed with me all these years, and I am sure others feel that way as well. Well, the years went by, and my husband David, I must differentiate the Davids, and I would attend services from time to time, and we loved hearing you sing. It filled both of us with a feeling of warmth and joy,
And when you live with a husband who has a magnificent voice himself, that is a real testament to your davening. You also provided comfort when we lost David's mother, and we appreciate that. So now I come to the last 2 years when we met regularly. Even when we did not feel comfortable being inside, we brought lawn chairs and chatted on the Shomrei lawn, right under that tree, right? Somehow being outside with the birds singing and Kasha running around gave us an opportunity to open up with each other. Our meetings were a combination of business and sharing personal stories. Some meetings were easy, so others were not. We chatted about our kids as well as other goings on at Shomrei. Sorry, Yona, we still call you our kids. I also got to learn from you as well, as you are always the teacher. For all the time you gave me, as well as our community, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. May you and Zelda enjoy your next stop on the journey of life, and may you only know health and happiness. Lastly, I want to thank the celebration committee who have worked over the last several months to make this a meaningful and memorable day. Please stand up when I call your name. Co-chairs Audrey Levitin and John Lassiter, along with committee members Judith Antelman, Nick Levitin, Lily Lucy, Sherilyn Martley, Merle Martin, Arthur and Sheila Schumann, Adrian Schulman Lassiter, and Gail Stocks met and discussed and planned every detail, and we are thankful for their dedication and commitment. It was truly out of love and respect for you. And no event can ever get done without the help of those in our office. A big thank you to Ehud, Marita, Carlos, and Javier. One last wish, and I remember when we met and we first talked about this weekend, you said, don't tell anybody, but it's our 50th anniversary. But I guess you told everybody. So, mazel tov to David and Zelda on their 50th wedding anniversary. Wishing you many more. With that, I invite everyone to enjoy dessert, a little sweetness to send Rabbi and Zelda along. Rabbi and Zelda, we wish you the best.